What do you usually say when someone at work asks you to help with a task or project? Do you constantly find yourself saying yes to every request, big or small, and end up finding yourself overwhelmed and underappreciated? I know how frustrating this situation can be. You're stuck between wanting to keep the peace and wanting to keep your sanity. You feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. What if I told you that you could say no and be more respected for it? Not only is that possible, it's actually in your best interest. In this video, I'm going to show you why people-pleasing at work is actually holding you back and what to do instead for more respect. Be sure to stay to the end, where I'm going to share some simple but powerful scripts that you can use today to start getting the results that you really want. Hi there, it's Julie, your conversation expert. I help highly driven professionals learn the communication and leadership skills needed to uplevel their career. I'm also the author of the #1 best-selling book, Navigating and Avoiding Awkward Conversations. If you're looking to uplevel your communication skills on a wide variety of topics, including small talk, conflict management, and a whole lot more, you need to check out my book. There's a link in the description below. Let's talk about why people-pleasing at work happens in the first place. I get asked by clients all the time, how do I say no to a coworker or my boss when they ask me to do things that I either don't want to do or don't have the time to do? Many times people will fall into people-pleasing because they're either looking to make others happy, avoid conflict, or they feel that being readily available and willing to work on every project that comes their way is going to impress someone up the ladder and poise them for a promotion or a leadership opportunity. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a team player and a good coworker, but somehow it always winds up feeling really one-sided, doesn't it? Let me know in the comments if this is something that you struggle with. And if it is, let me know if there are any requests in particular that are especially difficult for you to say no to. I might just be able to make a video about that in the future. If the whole conflict here is that you're saying yes in order to be a good team player or coworker or impress your boss, why am I saying that people-pleasing is actually holding you back? Saying yes usually comes from a place of wanting connection or respect, but somehow you always just end up with a never-ending to-do list instead. What the heck? Well, let's first consider you, my friend. People who always say yes to every single request usually wind up feeling used, taken advantage of, really burned out because they're overworked. They also can often have anxiety around this feeling of a lack of control. There's so much on your plate and so many requests coming your way that you just feel like you're being blown around by what everybody else wants, and it can make you feel overwhelmed really easily. So let's take that one step further. What happens when you're feeling overwhelmed, overworked, and blown about by everybody else's requests? Well, typically, you're not going to have a lot of job satisfaction in your job, are you? Because you're not finding this to be rewarding work. You don't have a good work-life balance, most likely. And a lot of times the work that you are putting out isn't your best because you don't actually have the amount of time or brain power to dedicate yourself to these tasks 100%. So your performance is actually going down. Yikes. But is it worth it if you become viewed as someone who's always willing to pitch in and say yes and help out? No. The misconception here is that always being willing to say yes makes you look great, but it really just makes you look like someone who's always willing to say yes. Bummer. Most likely what you're actually doing is positioning yourself as a pushover, a yes man or yes woman, or someone who doesn't really know how to say no or delegate tasks to anyone else. You're definitely not positioning yourself as a leader in these moments, and you're not showing excellent time management or boundaries. You're the one they can count on to say yes when they just want to get something done and they don't care who does it. You become old reliable. Does that sound like respect? Does that sound like someone who's on a short list to get a promotion? Does it sound like someone who should be given a leadership opportunity? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Now, if you're finding yourself thinking about all the things you've said yes to recently that you really wish you hadn't, check out this oldie but goodie video where I go over how to say no once you've already said yes. But don't go watching it yet, because coming up, I'm about to give you those strong but powerful scripts that are going to help you say no today. So stay tuned. Okay, so we've learned why people-pleasing at work is actually holding you back. Let's dig into what to do instead for more respect. Now, please don't mistake what I'm saying to mean that you should never say yes at work, because that will definitely backfire too. You want to be seen as a team player and a great support to those around you, within reason. You also want to be seen as a leader, as someone who knows how to delegate tasks, as someone who's always willing to put their best foot forward on the things that matter most. I don't want you to be someone who says yes to every single request that comes across your desk. I want you to be more choosy about what you say yes to and to put boundaries around how much you're willing to put on your plate at a time. When you are asked to put something new on your plate at work, I want you to go through these 2 questions before you answer. First question is this task within my job description? If the task does not fall under your job description, please recognize that you're probably not the best person to do that task, and that's what you need to communicate to the person making this request. Here's a script that you could use in this scenario. That sounds like a really important project, but I'm not the person who's best suited to take it on. It sounds like you might need to contact so-and-so in this department. The topic falls squarely in line with what they do for the company, so I would encourage you to reach out to them instead. Now, if the task you're being requested to complete is below your job description, meaning this is something that should easily be taken care of by someone that you supervise, I would communicate that. In this scenario, I would use something a little bit more along the lines of, I completely agree with you that this task needs to be completed, but it seems like it falls more under the category of something someone you supervise can do. I'd be more than happy to be a resource for this person during this project and answer any questions they might have and give them feedback if they need it. But this is not a task I'm going to be able to take on given all of the items that are already in my workflow. In this scenario, you're not really giving the option to take on this task yourself, because you need to reserve your time and energy and resources for the tasks that are appropriate to your position. If you're already in a leadership position, you are getting paid to supervise and to delegate and to manage. And that is what you need to spend your energy doing. I'm not saying there's never a scenario where you might need to pitch in and do something that's technically below your pay grade, but I am saying this should not be a regular occurrence for you. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, do I have the time to take on this project? If the answer is yes, then say yes. If the answer is no, I first want you to recognize that it's most likely that the person making this request of you doesn't realize how much you have on your plate. Please don't make the mistake of assuming that this person knows how much you have going on and wants you to add this to your task list, knowing that it's going to overload you. Try to give them the benefit of the doubt. So in this scenario, we're going to shift the way that we go about this to be a conversation about priorities instead of whether or not this falls within your job description. As always, I want to encourage you to partner with your direct upline manager. They should be well aware of the tasks that are on your plate. They should be on board with any new projects that you're taking on, and they should have first pick as to what it is that's going to be taking up your time. You don't need to be saying yes to requests from other departments without consulting with your manager first. So if this request is coming from someone who is not your direct supervisor, even if you have the time, I would encourage you to say something to them along the lines of, let me consult with my manager on this before I say yes. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that they were already planning for me to work on, and then I have to come back and say no. So let me check with them first, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And then make sure that you are following up in a timely manner. You still want to be seen as organized and professional and a really great communicator. This is not an excuse for you to say no to this project. This is you having really great communication skills and a teamwork mindset between you and your upline manager to make sure that everybody's on board with what's going on and that there's not accidental conflict that's brooding because there are multiple people who are all trying to get your time, attention, and resources, and your upline manager might start to feel that you're not prioritizing or understanding their needs. So if this request is coming from someone other than your upline manager and it's going to take a large amount of time, you absolutely need to loop your manager in on this conversation and make sure that they are okay with you dedicating this much time and resources to this project to make sure that it's not getting in the way of something that they may have planned for you already that they haven't had a chance to tell you about. So please make sure and check with your manager before you say yes, even if you have the time. Now, if this is your direct manager who is asking you to take on this task, again, we're going to assume that they may not be aware of everything that you're working on in the moment. And we want to make this conversation about priorities. So you want to explain to them, this task seems really important and I am very willing to take on this task, but currently my plate is maxed out. I don't really feel like I can take on something new without having to bump something off of my to-do list. Do you have a chance to sit down with me for a few minutes and go through this so that we can look and see what needs to be the priority projects? Very rarely are you going to find a manager who would say no to that because they don't need you to be overloaded. They don't need your work performance to be poor. They need to know what you have going on because now you're giving them the impression, oh, maybe she's working or he's working on something that I'm not aware of that I need to be aware of. So at that point, you're going to sit down and list out, here are the projects that I'm doing. Here's how far along they are. Here are the deadlines we've agreed to. Give them all the information and then ask them, what do you think needs to be the priority here? Do you want me to take on this task that you've asked and bump one of these to later? Or do you want me to finish up one or two of these tasks and then start on the task that you just brought to my attention? Or do you feel like maybe we need to partner with somebody else to take on that new project if it's really time sensitive and needs to be completed right away? You want to be flexible. You're not there really to make the decision about which things are the highest priority. You're there to give information. You're there to help make sure that this conversation is complete so that your manager understands exactly what's going on, and then give some options and be willing to be flexible. If your manager tells you, no, this is really important, I really need it done now, do everything in your power to make that happen. The boundary here is knowing your limits and sticking to them, and communicating them to the people around you so that you don't wind up getting overloaded, overwhelmed, and seriously burned out. You want to be flexible with what you are willing to work on, but you have to put boundaries around how much you're willing to take on at a time. You need to know what your limits are, and you need to stick to them. Communication and leadership skills can be really difficult to navigate on your own when you're just not sure where to start. If you feel that you could benefit from a personalized coaching experience that could be customized to your specific needs, please feel free to check out my coaching options on my website, yourconversationexpert.com/coaching. There's also a link in the description below where you can check out my one-on-one and corporate coaching options and sign up for a free discovery call with me so that we can discuss your needs and what I can do to help. I want you to start to recognize people pleasing as an issue that has a lot to do with boundaries. Being willing and able to say no and stick with it can take courage, practice, and some serious mindset shifts. Boundary work is a big part of what I do in my coaching and my programs. And in my experience, people pleasing and boundary issues often go hand in hand. I feel very passionate about helping people learn how to define, communicate, and reinforce boundaries. If this is something that you feel that you would like to work on, I encourage you to download my free guide, 5 Steps to Stellar Boundaries. There's a link in the description below so you can grab your copy today. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified about all my latest videos, including my next one, which is going to be all about how to make a great impression during an interview. While you wait, be sure and check out these other super helpful videos. And please give this video a like and let me know what was your favorite part. I'll see you next week.